The Oath of Valor, Special Forces versus Terrorists. Prologue, a village in peril. In the remote mountains of Ashkaria, peaceful village named Darhan thrived, untouched by the chaos of war. Farmers tilled the land, children played in the fields, and elders shared stories under the ancient oak tree at the village center. But this peace was fragile. A notorious terrorist group, the Black Vipers, led by the ruthless Zahir al-Rahim, had set their sights on Darhan. The village was strategically located near a key supply route, and if the terrorists took control, they could smuggle weapons and launch deadly attacks across the region. As news of an impending attack spread, fear gripped the villagers. They had no weapons, no army, only their will to survive. But hope arrived in the form of Task Force Shadow, an elite special forces unit sworn to protect the innocent from tyranny, led by Captain Ryan Blake. These warriors had seen countless battles, but this mission was different. They weren't just fighting to complete an objective, they were fighting to save lives. The arrival of Task Force Shadow. The village elders gathered in the town square as 5 helicopters roared overhead, kicking up dust. One by one, heavily armed soldiers descended, their faces hidden behind tactical masks. At the center stood Captain Ryan Blake, his eyes scanning the frightened villagers. "We are Task Force Shadow," he announced. "We have sworn to defend Darhan. No terrorist will set foot in this village while we stand." Beside him were his most trusted operatives, Sergeant Marcus Hawk Carter, a sniper with unmatched precision, known for eliminating targets from over a mile away. Lieutenant Ava Ghost Ramirez, an infiltration specialist, skilled in silent takedowns and reconnaissance. Tech specialist David Sparks Nolan, a hacker and explosives expert, capable of turning enemy technology against them. Heavy gunner Jake Titan O'Connor, a towering soldier who carried a machine gun, capable of cutting down an entire squad. The villagers, though fearful, saw something in these soldiers hop. Preparing for war. With only 48 hours before the terrorists' expected attack, Task Force Shadow fortified the village. They trained the young men in basic combat, reinforced weak structures, and set up booby traps along the outer perimeter. Meanwhile, Ava Ramirez infiltrated an enemy camp, gathering intel. What she discovered was worse than expected. "The Black Vipers aren't coming with just rifles," she reported. "They have RPGs, drones, and an armored convoy." Captain Blake clenched his fists. "Then we hit them first." The night ambush. Under the cover of darkness, Task Force Shadow launched a covert raid on the terrorist convoy. Moving like ghosts, they planted explosive charges along the dirt road leading to Darhan. As the convoy approached at dawn, Marcus Carter took position on a nearby hilltop, his sniper rifle aimed at the lead truck. Bang! One perfect shot shattered the driver's skull, sending the truck crashing into the others. Before the terrorists could react, the charges detonated, engulfing the convoy in a fiery inferno. The remaining Black Vipers, disoriented and panicked, scrambled for cover, only to be met by a hail of gunfire from the shadows. Within minutes, half of their forces were eliminated. But Zahir al-Rahim was still alive, and he had one final plan. Act 4. The final battle. Knowing he couldn't take Darhan by force, Zahir changed tactics. He sent suicide bombers, disguised as villagers, to infiltrate the town. But Task Force Shadow was ready. Ava Ramirez spotted a man acting strangely near the town square. She moved in, saw the detonator in his hand, and fired one precise shot to his head. Explosions rocked the outskirts as the last of the Black Vipers made their final push, Captain Blake and his team stood their ground, cutting down the attackers in a desperate last stand. As the smoke cleared, Zahir al-Rahim emerged, holding a child hostage. "Drop your weapons," he sneered, "or she dies." Ryan Blake did not hesitate. With lightning reflexes, he pulled his sidearm aimed and fired a single shot right between Zahir's eyes. The terrorist leader fell dead. The war was over. Epilogue. The oath fulfilled. As the sun rose over Darhan, the villagers stepped out of their homes, safe and alive. "You saved us," the village elder whispered. Captain Blake removed his helmet, his eyes weary but resolute. "We swore to protect you, and we never break our oath." With their mission complete, Task Force Shadow departed, leaving behind not just a liberated village, but a legend. A legend of warriors who stood between darkness and the innocent and never wavered. Themes and symbolism, duty and honor. The Special Forces fight not for glory, but to uphold their oath, strength of the innocent. The villagers, though untrained, showed courage in the face of terror, sacrifice, and brotherhood. Soldiers fight not just for their country, but for each other. Would you like a sequel or additional fight sequences? The Oath of Valor, Special Forces vs. Terrorists. Prologue, a village in peril. The village of Darhan sat nestled in the rugged mountains of Vashkaria, untouched by war, but always on the edge of danger. The people were simple, farmers, traders, and families who had lived there for generations. Life in Darhan was peaceful, yet fragile. This peace was shattered when news arrived that the Black Vipers, Adar, a ruthless terrorist group, had set their sights on the village. Their leader, Zahir al-Rahim, was infamous for his brutal tactics. His men had raided villages before, leaving nothing but ashes and bodies in their wake. But Darhan was more than just another target. It was a strategic stronghold near a key mountain pass. If Zahir took control, he could smuggle weapons, drugs, and troops through the region, escalating the conflict. The villagers had no military, no weapons, and no chance of survival. Their only hope lay in a single call for help, one that reached the ears of Task Force Shadow, an elite Special Forces unit known for operating in the world's most dangerous territories. Captain Ryan Blake and his team were deep in enemy territory when they received the distress call. They had fought warlords, extremists, and mercenaries before, but this mission was different. This time, they weren't just stopping an enemy. They were defending the innocent. The arrival of Task Force Shadow, the thunder of helicopters, echoed through the valley as 5 black UH-60 Black Hawks descended over Darhan. Dust and debris swirled as the aircraft touched down in the center of the village, their doors sliding open to reveal the heavily armed operatives of Task Force Shadow. Captain Ryan Blake was the first to step out. Clad in full tactical gear, his sharp blue eyes scanned the fearful faces of the villagers. He had seen this look before. People on the edge of despair, hoping for a miracle. Behind him stood his elite team, Sergeant Marcus Hawk Carter, a legendary sniper known for hitting targets over a mile away. Lieutenant Ava Ghost Ramirez, master of stealth and reconnaissance, capable of eliminating threats before they even knew she was there. Tech specialist David Sparks Nolan, a genius with explosives and hacking, able to turn the enemy's own technology against them. Heavy gunner Jake Titan O'Connor, a powerhouse of raw strength, carrying a machine gun that could tear through armored vehicles. Blake stepped forward, addressing the village elders. "We are Task Force Shadow. We have sworn to protect you. No terrorist will take this village while we stand. The villagers murmured amongst themselves. Could these soldiers really stop the Black Vipers? Could they fight back against an army of death? We will fight, Blake continued. We will train your people, and we will make Darhan a fortress they will regret attacking. With 48 hours until the enemy's arrival, they had no time to waste, preparing for war. The village was not ready for war, but Task Force Shadow would make sure they were. Blake assigned his team to different tasks. Marcus Carter took the strongest young men and began training them in basic combat and marksmanship. Ava Ramirez scouted the surrounding hills, setting up hidden cameras and traps. David Sparks Nolan fortified the village, setting up booby traps, tripwires, and makeshift explosives. Jake Titan O'Connor reinforced the village walls and taught the people how to build barricades. As night fell, Ava infiltrated an enemy outpost, moving silently through the darkness. She gathered critical intelligence. The terrorists weren't just bringing rifles, they had armored vehicles, RPGs, and attack drones. They were coming in full force. She barely made it back before dawn. They're bringing everything they have, she reported. They want to wipe Darhan off the map. Blake clenched his jaw. Then we hit them, Chi. Before they reached the village. The ambush at 500 hours. Task Force Shadow took the fight to the enemy. Under the cover of darkness, they planted C4 charges along the dirt road leading to Darhan. As the first armored convoy approached, Marcus Carter took position on a nearby ridge. His sniper rifle locked onto the driver of the lead truck. Bang! The bullet tore through the windshield, killing the driver instantly. The truck veered off the road, slamming into the convoy behind it. Before the terrorists could react, boom! The explosives detonated, turning the road into just an inferno of twisted metal and flames. Black Vipers stumbled from the wreckage, confused and disoriented, only to be met with the hail of bullets from the surrounding cliffs. Ava moved like a ghost, picking off enemies with a silenced pistol. Sparks hacked into the enemy drones, turning them against their own troops. Titan unleashed a storm of machine gun fire, cutting down terrorists in waves. By dawn, half of the enemy force was dead, but Zahir al-Rahim was still alive, and he had a backup plan, the final stand. Realizing he couldn't win with brute force, Zahir sent suicide bombers disguised as refugees into the village, but Task Force Shadow was ready. Ava spotted a man acting strangely near the town square. She moved in fast, saw the detonator in his hand, and fired. One precise shot. The man fell dead. His bomb diffused before it could explode. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from the hills. The remaining Black Vipers charged in a final desperate attack. Blake and his team held the line, fighting back with everything they had. Explosions rocked the village. One by one, the terrorists fell, until only Zahir al-Rahim remained. Holding a young girl hostage, he sneered, "Drop your weapons, or she dies." Ryan Blake did not hesitate. With lightning reflexes, he pulled his sidearm aimed and fired one perfect shot between Zahir's eyes. The terrorist fell lifeless to the ground. The war was over. Epilogue, a promise kept. As the sun rose over Darhan, the villagers emerged, their faces filled with relief and gratitude. "You saved us," the elder whispered. Blake removed his helmet, exhaustion clear in his eyes. "We swore to protect you, and we don't break our oaths." With their mission complete, Task Force Shadow departed, leaving behind not just a liberated village, Buta legend, a legend of warriors who stood between darkness and the innocent.